a user logs on to QMSC, they're going to land on this page, which is our dashboard and analytics page. It's essentially a control panel. These charts and graphs can be custom modified very easily, so that whatever you and your team members see whenever you log on is going to be what's most relevant to your business and operations. The data that can be presented here could be anything from any part of our application, or even external data sources such as an ERP or engineering data management or something along those lines. So very easy for us to model different kinds of charts and graphs and visualizations, which are interactive. You can do deep dives and so on. One of the other things I'd like to point out is our document management system. We have a fantastic document management system. I would put it up against anybody's, but for some very specific reasons. Whenever you do a search within our application, you can do a content search, so that you can actually parse through the content and the information contained within a document. And so for some of our customers, they manage 50,000 plus documents, and you can kind of imagine what kind of challenges you would have looking through those many documents. With the content search, you're going to be able to find what's relevant to you very quickly. And of course, you can still do filters and a rules type based search or Boolean type search. So it's a very flexible system. And of course, you're going to be able to upload a document in its native file format, and then even we can manage different things like document change, revision history, and so on. One of the things I'd like to point out next is our asset management system. This is a really well-suited system for test instrumentation and calibrated devices. So if you want to be able to have a gauge tracker, you can upload your existing spreadsheet or some sort of CSV file that contains all of your current instrumentation that's used for test and inspection. We can track, manage, and generate certificates within this, and even send out recall notices to the tool owners or to somebody who's managing your tool crib, for instance. Next up, I'd like to share with you our audit management system. You can create templates and checklists. An audit can be scheduled and sent to other team members or even suppliers. We can have multiple assessors, so if you have a team of auditors, we can very easily manage that. You're going to be able to assign a level of compliance. You can create non-conformances or corrective actions out of an audit. You can actually create very sophisticated checklists. You can add photographs, videos, or whatever. One of the other things I'd like to point out is our non-conformance management. Really, it's problem resolution. Our non-conformance management system is a material review board type non-conformance process. It's very, very flexible. It's easy to configure. You, on your side as a QMSC customer, will be able to add, modify fields. You can integrate with our product lifecycle management component and also our supplier management features, so that you can link a non-conformance to suppliers. Your team members can get alerted. You can pull in and trend problems as it relates to a particular part and so on. So it's a really, really powerful non-conformance management system. One of the last things I'd like to point out here is our product lifecycle management. We kind of think of it as a product lifecycle light management system. Meaning that we're not trying to manage your engineering data management models, things like this. We can integrate with those very easily. In fact, as an admin, you can import a list of parts or bill of materials. For each part, we can manage multiple revisions. Some of the other things that we're able to do here for quality planning is to send out a quality plan to suppliers or internal team members. For the suppliers, you can list and link a supplier or multiple suppliers to a part or even a specific revision of the part. Our quality planning feature is very powerful. We have a lot of customers in automotive that use it. It's a very flexible tool. So you can toggle between different views with a quality plan. So for instance, if I want to look at every quality plan that is assigned to a specific supplier. I can expand that supplier's list of quality plans and part numbers, and I can see what the status of each of those are. It's very, very easy and intuitive to use. One of the things that we've been very intentional about is accounting for the fact that our customers and their suppliers and internal and external users make up a very broad demographic. And so whether you have very sophisticated users, you may consider them power users, or let's say less sophisticated users, very new to using a cloud-based system, it's going to be very easy for someone to log on and to find exactly what they're looking for and to go accomplish what you want them to do the first time. Last thing I'd like to point out here is just how easy it is to set up an account. You can have multiple sites within your account. Each site, you can create a list of groups or departments, and this will allow you to reflect the way that your business operations work today. Of course, you're going to be able to add your team members to each group or department, and then you've got a lot of power over the way that your account is set up. In other words, you don't have to come back to QMSC whenever you need to make some kind of minor change or add users or something like this. I want to introduce you to our product lifecycle management and quality planning. I'd like to show you how quality planning works with QMSC. When you navigate to the quality planning page, you see a list of discrete quality plan action items. So each action item relates to a specific part in a particular plan that has been assigned to a specific supplier. We can toggle between different views by selecting Parts View or Supplier View. Here we can see the quality plans and part numbers that have been assigned to each supplier. For this part, I can expand that and I can see all of the quality plan action items that are assigned to this part number for this supplier. We can also see what the status of each action is, what kind of plan this relates to, and what the specific requirement is for this task. If we open up the details view, we can see some more information. For instance, if the supplier has submitted any kind of objective evidence, who's going to review it, plan submission due date, and plan submission date. Our clients experience a significant reduction in the time that it takes to close the quality plans because of the way that we're able to simplify and streamline the quality planning process. You'll be able to migrate from your existing paper-based or Excel spreadsheets and convert those into templates within QMSC. And as those get assigned to suppliers and they complete those tasks, you're going to gain real-time status for quality planning tasks across your supply base. Here's how problem resolution works within QMSC using our nonconformance management. When you land on the nonconformance management page, you're going to see a list of nonconformances. This page can be set up so that it's relevant to your business. We do have filters so that you can search through the status and find different kinds of information. If you want to run a report, for instance. If we want to just make a nonconformance, it's very easy to do. The workflows can be automated based on some logic. Supplier information can be pulled in to relate suppliers and alert them of a nonconformance. We can also link part and material data to nonconformance. We're going to be able to capture and report on what this issue is and attach any kind of photographs or documents that are relevant to this issue. Once we get done with that, we're going to be able to submit. On the second step, we'll be able to see a disposition operation. And so this can be assigned again through automation to the right team members for action. We can assign a disposition. For instance, if we want to return to the vendor, we can add and link other workflows. and those can take on a life cycle of their own. Once this gets submitted, it'll go through a series of approvals if that's been set up in configuration. So what our customers are able to achieve with QMSC nonconformance is the ability to reduce the time that they spend initiating and documenting and navigating the nonconformance through to completion. So if it takes you half an hour today, we're going to be able to get it down to 5 minutes. It really simplifies the way that you manage your problems and get them resolved. I'd like to show you how problem resolution works within QMSC using some of our nonconformance management tools. The nonconformance management feature is very comprehensive. It does incorporate a material review board type process that you would find in automotive or aerospace. This approach allows you and your team members to collaborate on what the right resolution is to the reported problem. It's very simple to initiate a nonconformance. This form in the fields that you see here can be set up in the configuration of the nonconformance so that on your side as a system administrator, you can add and remove and modify field functionalities to show and to hide, to add and remove someone. This allows you as a QMSC customer to have an incredible level of control over the user experience that you have within QMSC. The main things I want to point out here is that we can pull in information and data from our product lifecycle management. We can also link a problem to a specific supplier. Or we can link it to a customer or to an internal department at group from the various sites that are set up within your account. So this allows you to, whenever you're looking at nonconformance trends, to identify what's related. Related problems is really what we're looking for, so that over time, as we identify those trends, you're going to be able to use our corrective action tools to systemically address those problems. Last thing I want to point out here is that a description of the problem can be populated. Of course, you're going to be able to attach any kind of photographs or supporting documentation. And then finally, whenever you submit, the nonconformance will go through a automated logic to make sure that this goes to the right team member or team for disposition to figure out how to resolve the problem. Let's look at a nonconformance that has been initiated but is in the disposition step. So here, the initiation of the nonconformance has already been completed, and we can see that it's currently in the disposition step. The final step that can be achieved with the nonconformance feature is to go through a series of approvals. For our aerospace customers, we do have the ability to add root cause analysis and a root cause corrective action within the nonconformance, and that allows our aerospace customers to ensure that they're compliant to AS 9100 Revision D. We're able to define what kind of defect classes this nonconformance relates to. Again, this allows you to track and trend related problems. And also you are able to modify this list. So this list may not relate to the kind of problems that you have, but you can change these values in the nonconformance configuration menu. In terms of the kind of dispositions that can be achieved, these are very common, and again, this list can be modified so that it's relevant to your business. Accept, return to vendor, rework, repair, scrap, and so on. We find that most of our customers, these work for most of our customers, but just for this example, what we want to do is to return this to the vendor. And this allows us to see some additional workflows that we can link to this nonconformance. So for instance, if we return to vendor, maybe we want to create a debit or credit memo. That debit and credit memo can go through its own series of checks and balances so that your purchasing team can be involved or finance team as necessary. Your supplier gets alerted to this, and once this linked workflow gets resolved, It will allow the nonconformance to be closed out. As long as any of these linked workflows are open, it's going to prevent the nonconformance from being closed. And this helps us ensure that we're following best practices for problem resolutions. We can look at some of the other workflows in a separate overview, but again, we just wanted to highlight what's possible with the nonconformance feature. The advantage of using QMSC's nonconformance is just our ability to solve your problems faster. If you're not relying on an Excel spreadsheet or Word documents and emails, for instance, to have better collaboration. Your team members are going to get alerted to everything that they're responsible to do, and the same thing for your suppliers. And to identify real-time problems and trends within your business. And so in other words, you don't have to go try to aggregate a lot of information from disparate sources. It's all residing within QMSC, and using our really powerful analytics, you're going to identify those problems very easily. And so I think that brings us to the end of this overview. Hopefully you can see what we're trying to achieve with our nonconformance feature. Let's take a look at how easy it is to manage your suppliers. A couple things I would like to point out here. We can add a single supplier. We can import a list of suppliers. We can also integrate with your ERP and pull in supplier data through a number of different connection methods. But let's just add a single supplier for right now. Some of the things that we can handle whenever it comes to the supplier relationship management, we can list a buyer, supplier quality engineer. We can also add business domains. So perhaps a supplier relates to a specific business unit. Very easy for us to manage different business domains. Right, so let's add a new supplier business. This would be the first step whenever it comes to adding a new supplier. The reason we're going to add a supplier business, one supplier, think of a business like Grainger. Grainger could have many hundreds of facilities around North America. And what we want to do is to say that there's one big corporation and then there are many locations or facilities. We can pull in your existing legacy supplier code if you have one, or we can also create a new code automatically. Okay, looks like this one is already in here, so we'll try another one. Okay, so we've just added McDonald's as a supplier, and we're going to add a specific supplier location. To add a new supplier, that's essentially all you need. You can add additional information such as specific contacts for different kinds of roles at that supplier. You can also add additional processing capabilities. So if you want to be able to search for your suppliers by what they do, we can add multiple lists in different categories of processing capabilities. We can even add your product categories or commodities. Okay, so we've added McDonald's now. We can search for that supplier and we can see that they're right here. If we need to at some other time, we can come back and modify this information here. When we onboard a new supplier, we can also pull in some of their sensitive banking information, financial data, and so on. Okay, so we've added a new supplier. There's a few other things that I'd like to point out here. We can navigate to the list of suppliers, and we can search for the suppliers here in the supplier list. You can see we've got McDonald's right here. In terms of the information that we can pull together, I think this is where QMSC can provide a lot of simplification, aggregating multiple disparate data sources from your business, such as the processing capabilities, audits that are planned or upcoming or completed, any kind of non-conformances that are related to a specific supplier. You're going to see that list here. And if you want to toggle between multiple sites, it's very easy to select the site dropdown and select the right location. And you are also going to be able to create new records for certain kinds of information, such as a non-conformance, corrective action, and 8D, and so on. Again, you can see 8Ds, which is a sophisticated problem identification and prevention tool. Very common in aerospace and automotive. We can also create a quality plan, think like a PPAP, part submission warrant, or something along those lines. You're able to create the templates that you would want to use within your own account. For instance, maybe you want to have an AI-AG type of quality planning methodology. You can create those templates and settings and then distribute them internally or to your suppliers. And for each supplier, that quality plan can be found here or on the quality planning page within the PLM. Any documentation that the supplier has submitted or that you've added to their profile is going to appear here. You can link parts that your supplier is approved for or that you supply right here in the parts sub-tab. We also have supplier capacity projections. This allows your suppliers to give you visibility into what kind of capacity they have over some period of time. And this can be configured to collect the kind of information that's going to be most informative to you. So for instance, if you're looking for specific processes or capabilities, you'll see those here. Or maybe you want to get an idea of how many parts or commodities that they can deliver over some period of time. This can also be configured for the supplier to report that. Finally, anytime we do an implementation that has supplier management, we'll go through a workshop to understand what your requirements are on supplier scorecards. In other words, how do you know that your suppliers perform the way that you want them to? So this list and palette is very configurable. We can hide and show and add and remove different options right here, and the supplier scorecard would be one of those. Hopefully this allows you to see some of the things that we can do with bringing all of your supplier data together into a global data view. And of course, this can be achieved through real-time connections such as an API or some sort of other integration. How can we collaborate with suppliers to resolve a problem when a trend has been identified? We have a number of tools available. One of our most popular tools is the 8D, what is also called a supplier corrective action request in some industry segments. There's several ways that an 8D can get initiated. It could be created as a standalone record. In other words, you've been evaluating and looking at your quality trends. You realize that there's some kind of issue with the supplier, and you want to initiate an 8D. That would be the first way to create an 8D. The second and very typical way to do it is whenever non-conformances have been initiated, and at the disposition step, the individual performing the disposition believes that the problem that has been observed in the non-conformance is actually systemic. And so this is where the non-conformance has the ability to add the additional workflows, which was shown in one of the other overviews that we provided for non-conformance. So here we are on the 8D page. It's selectable out of the non-conformance menu. And again, we can select Create 8D. If the 8D has been created out of a non-conformance, we can see that non-conformance that it's been linked to right there. In fact, if we click on this 8D, the non-conformance, we can see that non-conformance right there. We can see here in the non-conformance what the disposition was, and that 8D has been linked and that it's pending. So we'll go ahead and open that up right now and walk through this one right here. We can see that the 8D is currently at a draft stage. It's at D1, and that a particular owner is initiating this 8D, defining what the problem is. Some of the things that have already been assigned to it, it's been assigned to the supplier, the part number, part description, and so on. And in fact, those things were selected whenever the non-conformance was created. So there's some automation that occurs when you create an 8D out of a non-conformance. This really simplifies the initiation of the 8D and makes it very automated, prevents errors, and really simplifies it. So once the problem has been defined, then the next step is that it will go to the supplier. I'm going to navigate back to the 8D page, and we will look at several other 8Ds, and one in particular that's actually been completed. So we can see here that this one is not related to a non-conformance. There's no related workflow. A couple things I want to point out here. At step D2 and D3, we can see that the supplier has submitted it. We've got that status right there. Now, however, although it's not related to a non-conformance, it is possible to initiate an 8D and link it to a deviation request. So let's say, for instance, that the supplier observed some kind of problem prior to their shipping goods or services to your facility. They can create a deviation request, submit that to your quality team. The quality team can respond to it and provide some sort of guidance as to whether it's going to be acceptable to send those goods or services to you. And if that is in fact the case, the quality team may create an 8D, as we can see here, and which has been done, assign that to the supplier, and the supplier can link that deviation request to the 8D. And this allows you to have full visibility to the nature of the issue, where the problem originated and why it was triggered in the first place. This is going to be an industry standard best practices approach. You can see the kind of data that we're going to be able to collect here. If you do have other kinds of information that you want for your suppliers to report on, of course, you have the ability to update the form. You can add additional reference attachments such as a PDF, maybe some sort of guidance or instructions. Most of our customers find that the 8D in its current format is very adequate and in fact very good. As each section of the 8D is completed, your supplier will submit it. Your quality team who receives those updates and alerts and is responsible for reviewing the 8D can in fact close out the 8D at each step. And so if you and your quality team decide that the 8D is adequate as is, so in other words, the root cause has been sufficiently identified and corrective actions have been implemented adequately, you can close it out without having to progress to further steps. As it gets to D6 and D7, we can see that there's validation steps and what it was that actually occurred to prevent reoccurrence. So for instance, if there's specific information that we want to collect, maybe an FMEA, control plan, and other types of documentation and preventative measures, the supplier and your quality team can define and agree on what would be adequate, assign it to specific team members in the supplier's organization or within yours, and then report on when it was completed, whether it has been completed and attach evidence of that completion. Once that's been completed and your quality team agrees to it, of course, they're going to be able to sign that off with the user stamp and time and date stamp, provide any kind of additional comments, and complete. One other thing I'd like to point out is that it is possible to reject back to the supplier at each step. Now, if you do, your quality team is going to be required to provide some sort of feedback to the supplier, and that will allow the supplier to know what it is that you're expecting in response, or what was lacking in the previous submission. So the key benefits with the QMSC 8D process is that we're going to substantially save time because we're simplifying and streamlining your quality problem resolution processes. Your suppliers are going to have very clear steps as far as what's required. And of course, you're not going to necessarily have to progress through an entire 8D just because a form says to. Your team's going to have the flexibility to end the process when it actually makes sense to do so. And another key benefit is that we'll be able to report in real-time data. So in other words, we can show you and your team through different steps of the process what the overall status is for each 8D, and then also on a global level within your organization. Let's take a look at how we can migrate your paper or Excel-based manual process for quality planning and fully automate it using QMSC Product Lifecycle Management quality plans. Here I'm in our settings menu, and you can see we've selected the quality plan. The first step to going through the quality planning using QMSC is to set up a template. This could be analogous to the tabs that you may have in an Excel spreadsheet if you're using something like a PPAP, part submission warrant, or quality planning using an AI AG methodology. The initiation of a quality plan template is very simple. Just selecting that new plan template, and then the wizard will guide you through the steps to create a template. It just takes a few minutes. It doesn't take any time at all. Let's look at an existing quality plan. So this is a quality plan for a project at a particular phase of the project. You can see here that there's specific information we want to collect from the supplier. We've got additional description here. And if you open up one of the steps, you can see that we can attach forms that we may want the supplier to download, to complete, and to reattach whenever that task is assigned to them. Additionally, if you have a step that you want the quality representative within your company to complete, so for instance, maybe it's some sort of certification or authentication that this portion of the project has been completed, then your supplier quality engineer can download this form, sign off on it, and reattach it in the task. And this allows you to complete every step of your quality planning process within QMSC. One of the other things I'd like to point out is that you can set up the gate configurations here by setting project gate configuration. At some point, if you determine that a project gate is no longer needed, of course you have the ability to disable it, and this allows you to hide those project gates from a quality plan and the ability to select them when you create a quality plan. You can set up multiple projects simply by adding a new project when you select project configuration. Again, it's very, very simple to set this up. Whenever we onboard a new customer, we'll actually walk through this process with you and help you migrate your existing practices into QMSC, and then also train an administrator on how to set this up. Okay, so now we're going to look at our product lifecycle management, and we're going to select quality plan. This is the quality planning main page. This is a list in this current view of discrete tasks that have been assigned to suppliers. So in other words, this is every task that you would assign to any supplier and that is currently outstanding, in process, or has been completed. You can see the part number that it relates to. If we click on the view details, we'll be able to actually see any kind of submissions or activities that have been completed with this. Administrative users and quality plan owners, in other words, the supplier quality engineer who created it, can delete the task or the plans. We can see which plan it relates to, description, scores, and so on. Additionally, if you want to perform a bulk update, you can select multiple items, edit submission due dates, delete the tasks, or change who is going to perform that task. We can change the view into a task view by selecting task view, and this would be the default view. If we want to look at a parts nested view, we can select parts view, and we can see each task that is related to any supplier for that part number. So in other words, if you have multiple suppliers providing the same part, you can see the status of every quality plan related to all of the suppliers who are going to provide that part. Another view would be the supplier view, and this allows you to nest by supplier and then nest by part number. Then we can expand that part number to see all of the plan items that are related to that part number, and this would be inclusive of every phase of the project or every gate of the project. If we click on the view details for any item, we can see what the status of this is. For instance, no tasks have been performed on this yet. This has been assigned to the supplier. There aren't any attachments for the supplier quality engineer to review. So maybe at this point, if it's past due, we can actually change the score to red. We can assign new reviewers, and of course, we're going to be able to close it out. And then we've got another one here that has some activity that's been completed on it. For instance, we can see that a submission's been made. If we click on this, it'll open up the file in our browser and we can see what it is that the supplier has provided. Some of the things that we're additionally able to do is to give you a glide path of how your plans are going to be completed over time. And this is really helpful whenever you have multiple phases of a project and you want to assign all of the tasks and the phases to the supplier initially. The supplier will be able to provide you with a plan submission date and update this activity. It doesn't mean that they've completed the activity, it just means that they've provided some additional information about when they intend to provide that submission. Of course, if they want to, they can change the score, and internal users can add additional reviewers also. So the key outcomes with QMSC product lifecycle management using our quality planning process, we're going to substantially save time because we streamline the quality planning process. You will gain real-time status for all of the quality planning tasks across your supplier base, and your suppliers understand very clearly what is outstanding on their part, or if you've rejected something back to them, they're going to get instant notification and feedback about what that deficiency is. This is going to help you and your team work better, and of course you'll be able to complete the tasks much more quickly because all of this is automated. QMSC's business model is software as a service. What that means is that you don't have to worry about your own network infrastructure, internal support from IT teams. We're going to be able to manage all of those things for you. It also means that you have the ongoing support and help and confidence of QMSC. We understand the kind of problems that you face. Our team has 50 plus years in industrial manufacturing and supply chain management. So we get the kind of problems that you have on a day-to-day basis. And so that background and experience translates to a very personal level of comprehension whenever it comes to your problems and how we can help you. In terms of integrations, our platform can operate as a standalone business application. We can integrate with your other business applications. We can retrieve supplier master data, parts and materials master data, and even the transactional information such as purchase orders and purchase order line items. We can also have a combination of integration and the ability to download information into the application by a system administrator. And this allows us to do an ad hoc sort of support depending on what the implementation requirements are. During implementation, we'll work with you to identify the scope of implementation during the contracting phase. This helps us to get an understanding of what the specific requirements and needs are and how we're going to roll out the application within your business and across your supply chain over time. We find that a crawl, walk, run approach leads to the greatest level of success. This typically looks like a small number of internal core users and a few suppliers who will help us tease out any kind of potential challenges that we would see as we scale up. During the implementation process, we'll also generate any kind of training and support materials. Those can get embedded into your account's knowledge base so that your users have very easy access within 1 or 2 clicks. In terms of user adoption, we actually find that most of our customers don't even need the support materials. Our application and user interface is very intuitive. And so this means that anybody can log on very easily, regardless of user demographic, and find exactly what it is that they're looking for the first time, know what they're responsible to do, and be able to accomplish those tasks. In terms of the results over time, our customers see value within the 3 to 6 month time frame. Those kind of outcomes are usually in the range of reduced non-conformance, fewer corrective actions, and that leads to less rework internally, less material cost, and of course you're going to see a better throughput within your business as those things go down. This also tends to lead, and this is direct feedback from our customers, that your customers are going to be better satisfied. They get what they need from you sooner. You have a higher capacity, less overhead. It's a fantastic solution that we're providing you with to be able to do that. So we're very happy and excited to partner with you to solve the kind of problems that you have. Again, we understand what kind of pains you experience on a day-to-day basis. We've lived it, and so we get it. We're looking forward to helping you with your supplier quality problems very soon.